guys, and welcome to the second video of this series of videos talking about MRTK. In this opportunity, I decided to talk about bounce control. So bounce control is a component that will help us with the manipulation behavior. So we used to know this component as the bounding box component. Right now it changed its name and bounding box is going to be deprecated soon. So what does this script helps us with? So this script provides basic functionality for transforming objects in mixed reality. And you're wondering what's the difference between the object manipulator that we saw in the other video and the bounce control. So basically the bounce control will show a box around the hologram to indicate that we can interact with it. So that's the difference between each one of them. So in our object manipulator, we didn't have a box, but in our bounce control, we will have it, and we will have a box with edges allowing to scale, rotate, and transform the object. So we made a demo on the other video with R2D2, and we applied the object manipulator component to R2. In this opportunity, we will keep on working with R2, and we will apply the bounce control to him and see how he can interact with the box surrounding him. So let's begin. So to begin with bounce control, we are going to use the same projects we were working with object manipulator in our previous video. So what you're seeing here is the scene that I had in which we made the possibility to move R2D2. So now I will duplicate this scene so we can create what we want to test with bounce control. So I will call this bounce control. Great. It's going to reload it. Perfect. So in here I have the R2 with the object manipulator assigned to him. So first of all, I will remove that component because the idea of each one of the videos is to test the components by themselves, and then we will cover how we can mix them and make different functionality with each one of them. So since I want to work with R2 only, I will move him outside this game object, and I will call this one R2. Perfect. So we can work straight with R2 on this one. I will make it so we can see that in here it was quite big when we tested in our previous video. So I will put him a little bit smaller in order for us to try to test with him and the bounce control. Why? Just because I think it's going to be better, and if you want to leave it the size we had it, there's no problem, you can do it. And as you can see, it's so below. I will put him a little bit up. Right, so we have him, and I will also put him closer to our camera and go. Okay, so we'll put him a little bit closer so we can interact with him. So how we will test this? I will test this in our computer. Then at the end of the video we will test it. We will test the results in Oculus, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I already ported this project to work with Oculus. In fact, you can see in here in my asset folder I already have the objects, the Oculus project configurator. So when we test this in our computer and we can check this out, you will see a warning that the project did not find the Oculus camera. Okay, there it is. But don't worry, this is still going to work perfectly with testing on the PC. But just for you to know, this is giving me this error just because it's searching for the Oculus camera. So let's start. So I will assign our dear bounce control to R2 and check what happened. I again have the constraint manager automatically assigned to him, the same way we had in our object manipulator. But we will cover that, as I said, later on. But now we will focus on the bounce control, and To start testing, we first need to target which one is the object that we want to assign the bounce control to. So I will assign it to R2, and that's it. We already have. So if I test this right now, you will see how the bounce control is added. There you have, to R2. Okay, it doesn't look that good. We will see how to edit it and make it look even prettier. So right now we have R2 in our bounce control. Then we have the activation behavior. So basically this activation is set on start, which is the bounce controls basically becomes visible once we run our scene. Okay, so what if we selected activated by proximity? So in this situation, R2 won't have the bounce control visible until we approach with our hand to him, and then the bounce control will enable. And the same happens with activate by pointer, except that instead of the hand it's going to be with the pointer, and in this case it's going to happen with both of them. And then we have the activate manually, which will give us the possibility to activate the visibility of the bounce control through a script by accessing the bounce control that active property in our code behind. So we are not going to test the proximity because we are now testing in our PC, but if I would test it in Oculus, it would work because I would be approaching my finger to R2 and then we will get it enabled. But let's test it with the pointer. Okay, so I just selected that is going to be activated by pointer, and right now this is my pointer. As you can see, that white dot, that's why R2 has the pointer on it. So let's see the difference. So as you can see, now my pointer is not pointing at the R2, but when I put my pointer on top of R2, we have the bounce control enabled. Okay, so I will leave it like that. I think that's a nice way in which we can see the different design that we're going to assign to our bounce control. And then we have the bounce override, which is this one. So basically it sets a box collider from the object for bounce computation. So in this situation we are not going to use it because we didn't assign a box collider to R2, and as I said, we are only going to work with bounce control in this video. Later on we will see how the box collider works with it. Then we have the bounce calculation method, which basically this will give us which one is the priority of the calculation that we need. So we have render over collider, collider over render, collider only, or render only. So I will leave it at the one that is default. Then we have the padding. So if we need more padding around the axis or the Y or the Z, we would put more padding or less in case we need it. So right now I'm going to leave it as default because I want the bounce control to be exactly surrounding R2. And then we have the flatten axis. So basically this indicates whether the control is flattened in one of the axes. So in this case it helps us if we want to make two-dimensional our object. So if flatten axis is set to flatten auto, like this one, the script will automatically pick the axis with the smallest extents as flatten axis. So there are some objects like a board in which this could help us, but since R2 is a 3D object, we don't want him to be considered a two-dimensional, so I won't flatten any of the axes, so I will select do not flatten. Then we have the smoothings. In our previous video we covered the smoothing for the effect of smooth when we moved R2 from one point to the other with the object manipulator. So in this situation it happens the same. The only difference is that in this one we allow to configure the behavior for scale and rotate of the control. So if we want to scale R2 or rotate, we want to do it in a smooth way or we don't. So if we pick to do it in a smooth way, then we can modify the lerp time, but if we don't want it to be smooth, we can just set inactive the smooth property. I will leave it active and I will leave it the one as default because I want it to be smooth. You can of course test both of them. And then we have the configurations. From my point of view, it's one of the most important areas of the bounce control because this is what makes us easy to edit our bounce control design, I would say. So first of all, we will check what is the box configuration. So this is responsible for rendering a solid box with bounce defined via collider size and box padding. So in here we have three options. As you can see, the box material, the grab box material, and the flatten axis. We know that we didn't flatten the axis, so this one is something that we won't use right now. But in the case of the material and the grab material, this will be the box that is covering R2. Right now, we can see that we didn't see any box. We only saw the corners. So let's test something. So if I pick any material, let's say I pick that red as a box material. Let's say we pick maybe this blue as the grab material. So how would this look like? Let's test it out. Great. And as you can see, we have R2 surrounded by a red box. And what happens when I try to grab R2? So then when I grab him, you can see it turns into blue. And that doesn't look good because we cannot see R2 after all. So let's put some design that we can see. So let's try to put some materials that we can see. And if you type box, you will see that there are some materials that you can see. In fact, we will use the bounding box because this is the one that is suggested by the MRTK team. So we will put the bounding box and then we will put the bounding box grabbed when it comes to the grab material. And let's see the difference. So let's test it out. Great. So as you can see, it's a nice transparent material. And when we grab R2, so let's try to grab our R2. As you can see, there is a small glow surrounding R2 when we go and pick him. And this is what happens when we select him. So the glow turns into a light blue instead of what we had if we move around him. So it looks pretty good. Okay, so there is something that I still don't like, which is those materials that we see, the gray ones. It doesn't look that good. So let's see how we can change that. To change those corners, we have the scale handles configuration and the rotation handles configuration. So again, if we click on the scale handles configuration, you would be able to modify the behavior and visualization of the scale handles. So we first have, as we had on the box configuration, the handle material. So again, if we search on box, we already have different options. So in this situation, we will try to search for the handles. And we would have the bounding box handled blue, the blue grabbed, we have the bounding box grabbed white, the bounce control handle default, then we have the other material that is matte handle, and the handle insert. So I will select the bounding box handle white just because I like it to be white, and then as a grab handle I will select the handle blue grabbed. Then we have the possibility to change that gray box that we have at the corner, and we have for that some prefabs that, let me search, so we can search for handle, and you can see in here that this one are the hands that come with Oculus, so we are not going to use that for the corners, but we can use the bounding box scale handle. So this is the one that we could use. So what's the difference? One is the prefab and the other one is the model, so I will use the prefab because this is the prefab. And we also have the scale handle, which is this one, which is another one. So we could pick which one is the one that we like the most. So let's pick this one because that looks better for a corner. Great, so we have now our corner changed. Then we have the size of the scale handle. I will leave it as default. You could do it even bigger or smaller, the same with padding. Then you have the option that draw tether when manipulating. When active, this will draw a tether line from point of start of interaction to current hand or pointer position. If you would like to keep it enabled, if you don't, you can take it away. I will leave it as default. Then we have the handle ignore collider. These ones from here to the bottom are if we had a collider attached to this one, but in our case we don't. So then we have what happens with if the control is flatter, how would we, which one is the prefab that we will use, and also if we want to scale and the type of behavior we would need to. So I will leave this as default and let's see what we have. Great, so you guys can see I don't have in the corner the gray box. I have this cool corner, white corner. And if you guys interact with R2, let us put us in front of R2, then you will see that it will work better with the design. So there is one thing that is missing, which is this one that helps us rotate R2. I still don't like that one, so let's see how we can change it. Great, so we will go to the rotation handle and we will do exactly the same. So basically I will search for handle material and I will say, okay, I want the bounding box white like we did on the previous one. We have the blue graph like we did, and we have the prefab. So for the prefab I will search for handle and let's see which one is the rotation. So this will be the rotate handle. This is the game object. This is the prefab. So we can pick that one up. Let's do it, and we will no longer have that that ball in the rotation area. So remember we had all of this as default. So let's see what happened in here. Great, so we no longer have that weird circle we had. So we now have a nice prefab assigned to the rotation. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. R2, perfect. So we can rotate him. We can also try to rotate him on the awesome. So we now have the translation handles. So the translation handles is disabled by default, but if you want to handle R2 in different translation, let's say X, Y, or Z, you could show them in here. So I just clicked on show the handle for the 3 axis. Let's see how we see it. Great. So we see that we have new options in here. So we have this option at the middle of R2, which will help us move him. Let me try to grab it because it's difficult there. So if we pick this one, you're not seeing correctly because it's doing it really slow. So let's say we want him to closer to us or more far away, or let's try to pick the one that, let's try to turn him around. There. So we can grab R2 from that one. Okay, there. So we can move him, we can translate him in all the axes, as you can see. If I would pick the Z one, there we have. So, but I don't like, again, how it looks, that circle, so we can modify that. And we have the same options in here, so I will select the same bounds that we are working with, and the same one with, you could also pick the one that you want. And let's see the prefabs. So we have the handle prefabs in here, and we are working with translators. So I will go on handle base. I will try to search for the translation. This is the rotation. This is the scale that we had. This is also scale. And there we have the translator. So we have this one, and we have this one, which is like a blue one. This is our hand from Oculus. So I will pick this one because most of them have the same design, so it looks the same. I won't work with the size, I won't work with the padding, and we don't have a collider. And we could see which one is the collider type that we had. In this case, we don't have, so I will leave it as default, and let's test this out. What happened with the design? Great. Now, as you can see, instead of having that circle, gray circle, we have now a nice look of, I think it's like a straight arrow in here, like a line, sorry. Okay, so as you can see, we already have a nice color in all the things that we are working with R2. Okay, and it's working exactly the same. So let's move him a little bit, and there we have. So what we are seeing here will look exactly the same if we run it on our Oculus or our HoloLens. And then we have the link configuration. So basically the links configurations enables the wireframe feature of mouse control. So we have the following properties, which are the wireframe material, the edge radius, the shape, or the wireframes that can be either cubic or cylindrical. And then we have if we want to be visible or not. So in order to test it, because let's see, wireframe, let's pick one of the wireframes that comes. I like the blue one, so let's see how we can see our wireframe. Okay, great. So as you can see, the wireframes, now the one that we have was like a gray. Now it's a nice blue. And it looks much more better. So as you can see, we have the proximity effect inactive, and I could activate and see what happens, but we are in a PC and we have not the possibility to touch it with our hands. So I will leave it active because I want to see how that looks from Oculus. And we have in here the object medium priority. So basically is the distance for the first step scaling. Then we have the object close proximity, which is the distance from the second step scaling. Then we have the far scale. By default, the value of the handle asset when the hands are out of range or of the bounce control interaction. So basically it's the distance defined above by handle medium proximity. We use 0 to hide handles by default. Then we have the medium scale, the close scale, the far growth rate, medium growth rate. So basically those rates are a proximity scaled objects that scales when the hand moves. I'm going to leave it everything as default. And then we have the constraint system, this one. So basically our bounce control supports using the constraint manager like our object manipulator that we saw in the last video. And we can use it to limit or modify the translation, the rotation, or the scaling behavior while we are using the bounce control handle. So basically the property inspector, which is this one, will show all available constraints managers in case we had. As you can see, we only have the automatic one, and will let us select one of the options to scroll and highlight the selected constraint manager. But that's it for that part. And then we have the events. So we didn't cover the events on the last video of object manipulator, and that was because I didn't want to get deeper into doing different stuff than the component by itself. But for this opportunity, I will try to add an audio source. So this component will help me work with different sounds. So we'll cover this specifically in another video. But for now, you can see that I just added an audio source. So by adding it, let's put that in here. So I can have the possibility to assign R2. And as you can see, I can see my audio source in here. I will have the possibility to assign some audio. So as you can see, I said, okay, audio, you can play this sound one shot. So don't do it repeatedly, it's just one time. And we can pick in here the different sounds that come with the MRTK, or you can upload the ones that you would like to use. So I will search for on because I want to, let's select the open button up. Let's see which one, button press, MRTK button press. So I'll put that when we scale R2, we will make that sound, and we stop scaling, we will make a sound that it's going to be like turning it off. Let's see if we have a sound that is off. Okay, no, we don't. Okay, let's see, button down. Okay, let's put that one. So we will have a different sound when we when we scale R2 and when we stop scaling. Okay, so we will see that in our Oculus. So, and we have also the option to assign events to rotation and to translation. We only did it for the scale option. And then we have the elastic manager, which is experimental, and I won't cover it. And that's it for now. So as you can see, those are all the configurations we can work for bounce control. So let's see how we can see it on our Oculus. Thanks for joining me on this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it and hope this was useful for you. I will be uploading more videos next week, and if you want to take a look at this project, you can download it. I will put the link beneath this video. And remember, you can contact me through social networks in case you need some guidance on anything. So thanks for tuning in. See you guys.